I sent in 22 different Pokemon games to CGC Video Games for grading. CGC is the newest video game grading company. They are giving VGA and WADA some much needed competition. I sent in Pokemon games with obvious defects. Most of these I picked up from like GameStop and Walmart just to see how CGC does grade their games, if they're easy on the grading or if they're really difficult to get the high grades in. I will be giving away one of the graded video games in today's video. Just leave a like on this video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what your favorite game from today's video is. If you're chosen, I'll send your favorite game to you completely free of charge. CGC does charge $40 for modern video game grading. I do believe that the modern video games range from the original Xbox all the way up into this modern era of the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X. If you have the CGC Elite membership, you do get 10% off of video game grading, comic grading, and trading card grading. The Elite membership does cost $300, so I wouldn't really recommend that unless you're going to be grading a lot of products through CGC. This video game submission did take approximately 2 months to come back from CGC. With their advertised turnaround time of around 15 business days, that was a lot longer than what they had advertised, and they actually gave me a $50 coupon because the turnaround times were not as advertised, which I thought was an amazing thing for any grading company to do, because normally they don't guarantee turnaround times, and if they're completely off, such as say PSA, whenever they had that 2-year turnaround time, it seemed like they didn't really care. But CGC Video Games did give me a $50 coupon for the longer than expected turnaround time, which was really awesome of them to do. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys how these games were actually shipped to me and packaged. I was really impressed with how they packaged and shipped all of these games. As you can see here, they do place them into long white cardboard boxes, and they do place each individual game inside of its own plastic sleeve, and they're all divided by cardboard. They do ship them in boxes of 10 or boxes of 3. So if you're going to be sending in games and you want the best value, make sure you send them in 10 at a time, because they do charge $45 for shipping for each box, whether there's 10 games on the inside or there's 3 games on the inside. I did not know that whenever I sent my submission in, so I sent 22 games. They charged me $45 for shipping on each of the boxes with 10 games, and then the box with 2 games on the inside, they also charged me $45 for shipping. So make sure you keep that in mind when you're doing your submission. Whenever I sent in the video games, I just placed them inside of bubble wrap. If you guys want me to make a video on how to submit your video games to CGC, leave a comment down below letting me know, and I can definitely do that for you guys. All right, the first thing that we want to do is we want to look at the CGC graded game case. First glance, these look absolutely beautiful. I mean, just look at how this is displayed. This would look fantastic on a shelf. I'm a big fan of how these look inside of the case. Didn't have really super high expectations, but CGC really is known for having really awesome cases. That just looks fantastic. This did get a CGC 9.6 with a grade of A+. The highest possible grade you can get is a CGC 10, but you're really not going to see those ever. The most common grade is a CGC 9.8, similar to comic books, but you will see a lot of 9.9s in video games, especially with these modern games that just came out. If you pull them straight out of the case, there's not really very many defects on them. All right, I will be turning the games towards the side here just because it's kind of hard to show these cases. They are very large cases that these games come inside of. First thing that I want to talk about is on this game, I sent this in because it did have noticeable scuffing along the side on just this one corner right here, but other than that one corner right there with the scuffing on it, everything else looked absolutely perfect to me. The seal was completely intact. There was no like rips in the seal. There was nothing else going on with this game that would hold back the grade, and it looks like they did take off down to a 9.6 with that little scuff right there. Still a really cool game, really awesome looking game, let's be honest. Let's go ahead and grab the next game here. Let's just kind of go through. Looks like we did get a 9.8 on the Brilliant Diamond from 2021. This case is actually kind of gross. I don't know if, like, take a look at this case right here. That is not just dust. That is on the inside of the case. And if that was sitting on my shelf, I would be very upset with that. That's not cool. I sent this one in because it had major defects right there on the side of the plastic. Look at those large chips in the plastic right there. Those are actually cuts in the seal. I'm not sure how this game got a 9.8 with those very obvious cuts in the seal. Really disappointed with the scuffs along this case. These are collector's items. These are display pieces. They really do need to do a better job of taking care of the plastic that they put these games inside of, because if I were to display this, I would honestly probably want this to be repackaged and put into a different case, just because that does not look good whatsoever. So quality control may be a concern with CGC. I mean, the cases do look fantastic. Can't believe this got a 9.8. That's a very, very high grade. Like I said, I sent in a lot of these games with obvious defects just to see how they would come back. There's no way that this one should have got a 9.8. Not with the rips in the seal right there. And then there's also some heavy scratching along the game. I'm not going to complain about a CGC 9.8 though, but let's be honest here, that is not a very eye-catching game with that large rip in the plastic. All right, let's go ahead and grab the next game here. We got the Shining Pearl. This one actually got a 9.4. So we got a 9.6, a 9.8, and a 9.4. This one had a large amount of scuffing along the plastic, and there was a chunk of plastic missing right here. I do remember this one. So there was a missing piece of plastic right there, and I would assume that's why this one got knocked down to a 9.4. Other than that, this one was in really, really good shape. This one does not have all of the scuffing like the Brilliant Diamond case did. So this one is in perfect condition. The case is not an issue, which is really, really good. Maybe the Brilliant Diamond is just a one-off type of thing and we don't have to worry about it, but we do have 22 other games to take a look at, so we're going to find out if that's an issue or if that's just kind of a one-off thing. All right, so we got a 9.6 on this Shining Pearl game. Like I mentioned before, I just went into regular GameStop, Walmart stores, just picked these up. I actually got most of these on Black Friday when they were on sale. Average cost of around $30, $35 per game. This one just had a lot of scuffing on it. There wasn't really any major issues with the seal or plastic. So this one's in much, much better shape than the Brilliant Diamond that got a 9.8. I'm not really sure how that one got a 9.8. They must have just not been paying attention. I'm not really sure. But I'm gonna take it. There was a few 9.8s in here, even though these games did just come straight out of a case. This was the lowest graded game right here. We had the Pokemon Sword game featuring Zacian that got a 9.0. We did get an A++ on the sealed portion of this though, so there was no rips in the seal. There was no issues there. This game actually looks super clean. I don't remember what the problem was with this one when I sent it in, honestly. I sent in one copy of Sword just to have it, but that one looks super clean. That one looks way, way better than any of these other ones we've looked at, and it's got by far the lowest grade. We do have an issue here with the scuffing on the case. Once again, that is not on the game. That is definitely on the case. Really unfortunate there. The quality control is definitely a concern with CGC so far. Got Legends Arceus here. This one also got a 9.8. I remember sending this one in, and I remember the large scuffs right there in the corner. As you can see, those are very, very obvious scuffs right there on the Nintendo Switch red label. And then we also have an issue with the case. Once again, there's a large amount of just, it looks like dirt. It looks like dirt on the inside of this game. It's on the back as well. Like these are display pieces. These are collectibles. Like, yeah, I understand it's more about the game on the inside, but whenever people buy stuff like this, it's to put it on their shelf, and they don't want, like, look how dirty that is, and I can't get that off. That's not just wiping off. That's really, really unfortunate, and it looks like maybe CGC Video Games does have a quality control issue. They really shouldn't even send these games out in cases like this. They know it's going to be a problem. They know people are going to complain. That did get a 9.8 with the grade A++. This one actually made sense, more so than the Brilliant Diamond, but it's got more obvious defects than, say, this Sword game does and these other games that are lower graded. Kind of interesting if you ask me, but that's why we're doing this little experiment, just to see how CGC Video Games does grade. More issues with the case, like large, heavy scuffing, scratching on the case, on the side, on the back, basically on every single side of this video game. That's a problem. I would not be sending in my video games to get graded for personal collections whenever this is such an issue. I would want these cases need to be clear. These cannot be scuffed up like this. Like, I know that my bright lights and everything like that make these look a lot nicer than they actually are. They have a beautiful case, but they need to take better care of their quality control on, it may not even be them, it could just be the people who make the cases for them, or it could just be people grabbing the cases to actually seal the games inside of, just not being careful with them. I'm not sure. That's a huge issue. If they really want CGC Video Games to catch on, they have got to clear up the scuffing and this massive problem with the quality control on the actual games. And honestly, I'm having a hard time even judging why they're giving the grades they are. Like I said, that Arceus, that massive defect right there, and then you have a game like this where there's just not that, there's no issues on it. There's more issues on the case than there is on the game on the inside. So are they are they grading the game or are they grading the case? Because I remember picking this one out specifically because there was no dings issues. There was no problem with the seal. Like I said, I'm showing you all the angles here. I mean, this was a very clean game. I honestly expected this one to get a 9.8 or higher. And it got the 9.6 and it's in much, much better shape than these two that did get a 9.8. And it's honestly in similar shape to the sword game that got a 9.0. I'm having a hard time really judging what makes sense on their grading scale so far. All right, let's grab the next game here. We got another copy of Pokemon Snap. This one got a 9.4. I think this one had an issue with scratching along the bottom of the seal. If I remember correctly, yeah, down here on the bottom. I sent that, you know, like I said, I sent in most of these because of the issues that I saw whenever I was picking them out, just to see how CGC does grade. I'm still having a hard time making sense on how they're grading this. I mean, I know that the grading scale says, you know, minor defect, it will put it at like a 9.4, you know, multiple defects, put it at a 9.2, and so on and so forth. I mean, this game looks way better than these two 9.8s, and it got a 9.4. So at least this case is somewhat clean. There's no scuffing or scratching on this case. This is what they should look like when they come. They shouldn't be all messed up. I mean, there is a lot of just really bad looking scuffing on the inside of that. It looks like it's dirty. Looks like it has dirt on the inside of it, which is not cool. All right, let's grab the next game here. We got Let's Go Pikachu. This one had a 9.4. I don't remember there being any major issues with this one. This was just a Let's Go Pikachu game. I wanted to send in a good variety of games to give you guys the option to pick out your favorite game that got graded for the giveaway. That's crazy. There's nothing like seriously wrong. I mean, there's a dent on the seal on this one, okay? So that would obviously bring that grade down on the video game. Maybe they judge the seal damage much harsher than like surface scratches on the wrapper, but that's really the only issue, is just kind of a little bitty wrapper ding right there. I don't know. These grades really aren't making a lot of sense to me. All right, we got another 9.8 here. All right, another 9.8 Brilliant Diamond. First thing you're gonna notice, once again, the case is scuffed. The case looks like it's in worse shape than the Brilliant Diamond. There's a lot of, you know, scuffing along the wrapper of this. I remember sending this one in. It did have a really nice seal on it. There was no issues with the seal, and that could be the entire issue with these other games. Maybe they grade more harshly on the seal than they do on the surface of the actual packaging. They could see the scratching on the wrapper more of a factory defect than a user defect. The large dents and rips and things like that should be seen more as a user defect. Like this 9.8 Brilliant Diamond game with those obvious defects right there, those should be user defects, not factory defects. I'm not a video game expert or anything like that. Like I said, I just did this as a fun experiment just to kind of see how these games would get graded. And honestly, so far, it's really not making that much sense on how they're giving the grades. I know they have a grading scale, and I did read the grading scale whenever I was picking these games out. The difference between the manufacturer and the user damage should be really specified on which one actually causes the grade to drop in a significant way. There has to be, you know, a difference between those two things for these games to have such a wide variety of grades. Whenever there's obvious damage on the 9.8s and then you have 9.0s with very minimal and not obvious damage, really doesn't make a lot of sense. And if the issue was because of the seal, then the sealed grade right here at the top would not be an A++. So there has to be, you know, something going on here. They really need to specify how they're taking off on, you know, damage to these games, because that it just doesn't make any sense. You know, you got an A++ seal, which means that there's no manufacturer defects, but there's also no user defects that are really noticeable on this game at all. I'm looking at all the corners here. Even the, you know, the seal's good. If the seal was bad, it wouldn't have that A++. There's actually so much dust on the inside of this case. I'm not sure. I'm not even going to go through the rest of the games. I honestly had really high expectations for CGC video games. I really enjoy CGC trading card cases and the comic book cases. I'm a big fan of their company in general, but they really need to get the quality control of their cases fixed. I mean, you cannot have these collectibles having terrible looking cases. People just are not going to want their display pieces to be in terrible shape. I know I keep saying that, but it's very important for CGC to understand that. As a collectible company, they should understand that they can't be sending out these large cases with so much damage on the actual cases. Make sure you guys pick out your favorite game to enter the giveaway. Check out this video down below, and I'll see you in the next one.